In this lesson, we are going to practice graphing and solving one-step inequalities. A couple things to keep in mind are that we want the variable on the left. That's important. Secondly, if we have an greater than or less than symbol with no line underneath it, that's going to represent an open circle. And if I have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, that's a closed circle. And a couple more things to keep in mind are that if we multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. Alright, so keeping all those things in mind, let's go do some solving. So we're going to solve them just the same way that you would do if there was an equal sign there. So if I have negative 12 is greater than x minus 7, I'm going to solve it by getting rid of the minus 7. I add that 7 to both sides, and I have negative 5 is greater than x. Now again, we want our variable to be on the left side, so all I'm going to do is flip-flop this. Again, my point is toward the x, so I'm going to keep it pointing toward the x. What this reads now is x is less than negative 5. Coming up here, less than means an open circle. So I put my open circle at negative 5. Oops. Negative 5. And I'm going to go graph less than, which is the direction that it's pointing. And x is less than negative 5. In the next inequality, I have negative 1 plus r greater than or equal to 4. So I want to get the r by itself. I want to add 1 to both sides. R greater than or equal to 5. I have my variable on the left-hand side, keeping with the thought up here that if it has a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, I put a closed circle at the 5. My variable's on the left, no need to switch anything, and it's greater than, so I shade to the right. In number 3, I have some number, minus 6, is less than or equal to negative 14. Again, I solve for the n by adding 6 to both sides. N is less than or equal to negative 8. My variable is on the left. Again, an equal sign underneath means I have a closed circle. And since this reads less than or equal to, I shade to the left. Next inequality says some number b minus 7 is less than negative 12. I want to solve for b, so I'm going to do the inverse operation of minus 7. I add 7 to both sides. b is less than negative 5. Again, my variable's on the left, no equal sign, so I have an open circle, and less than means I shade to the left. In my next inequality, I have a minus 7 is greater than negative 16. Sorry, a minus 17 is greater than negative 16. So I'm going to do the inverse of subtraction, which is add 17 to both sides. That gives me a is greater than 1. Again, my variable's on the left. No equal sign means I have an open circle. This symbol reads greater than, so I shade to the right. Number 6, I have 15 plus some number x is less than or equal to 0. I want the x by itself, so I do the inverse of positive 15, which is minus 15. I have x less than or equal to negative 15, which means variables on the left, less than or equal to means that I have a closed circle at negative 15. And I'm going to shade to the left because it's less than. On number 7, I have 3 plus a number v less than or equal to negative 9. I have to move the 3 by subtracting 3 from both sides. V is less than or equal to negative 12. I have my variable on the left side. All set with that. I'm going to do less than or equal to, which means I have a closed circle at negative 12. And less than means I shade to the left. Number 8, I have 8 is greater than or equal to some number n minus 6. I want to solve for n, so I add 6 to both sides. I have 14 is greater than or equal to n. Problem is the variable is not on the left, so I'll flip-flop it, keeping my point toward the n. I have n. Now that's less than or equal to 14. Again, less than or equal to means I have a closed circle. Less than or equal to means I point to the left. On number 9, I have negative 3 times the number x is greater than 3. To remove the negative 3, that means negative 3 times x, I have to divide by negative 3. And remember one of the first rules I set up here was you have to have a variable on the left, the open and closed circle, but also when you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. So let's see what that looks like. So when I do negative 3 divided by negative 3, that's 1. Again, I'm dividing by a negative 3 here, so I have to flip my inequality from greater than to less than, and 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. Variables on the left, less than with no equal sign means I have an open circle at negative 1, and it's less than, so I shade to the left. I have some number n divided by 3 is greater than 3. To get rid of division, I have to multiply both sides by 3. However, I'm multiplying by positive 3, so no sign flip is needed. N greater than 3 times 3 is 9. There's no equal sign under there, that's an open circle. Greater than, shade to the right. Number 12. I have k divided by 4 is less than negative 4. Even though this is a negative here, I still have to get rid of this positive 4 by multiplying by positive 4. So I'm multiplying by a positive 4, no sign switch needed. K is less than negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. My variable's on the left, I'm all set with that. Less than means an open circle, a negative 16, and less than head to the left. Last one, I have negative 9 times some number x is greater than or equal to negative 90. In order to remove the negative 9, I have to divide by negative 9 on both sides. Again, when I divide by a negative, I have to flip the inequality, so instead of being greater than or equal to, that's less than or equal to. Negative 90 divided by negative 9 is positive 10. Variables on the left, less than or equal to, means I have a closed circle at 10. And I head to the left because it's less than.